All right. So there's an excellent resource online, Shiurim of Rabbi Meir Ashkenazi. It's fantastic. And I learned so much from them, and I want to share with you a few amazing things that about the laws of Havdala that never heard before, and sharing them with you. So we're going to discuss two things tonight. First of all, the laws of davening Ma'ariv and the ending of Shabbos, and the laws about women and the obligation of women to hear Havdala or not. So,
Or maybe.
huh?
Or maybe.
So first of all, the laws of the end of Shabbos. We make Havdala, we daven Ma'ariv at a later time than we do throughout the week on Saturday night. Why do we daven Ma'ariv later? So the simple reason you might think is because it's a mitzvah to add Michael al Kodesh. You're supposed to add more time from a time when it's not Shabbos to Shabbos, and therefore you're not allowed to work. You're not allowed to go immediately after Shabbos is over to go back to work. You have to add a little bit of time. So perhaps that's the reason why we delay davening Ma'ariv. Yes.
Could possibly be a reason that we want to be really sure that we're not going to leave Shabbos too soon.
Oh,
Okay,
we're heading there soon. We're heading there soon, Roberto. Very good point. So, so the obligation, according to Reb Chaim Noah, to add Michoil Kodesh, how much time you have to add from not holy time to holy time before Shabbos and after Shabbos? You have to add a minimum of 4 minutes before Shabbos. In other words, besides the 18 minutes we have before sundown, we light Shabbos candles, 14 minutes into those 18 minutes, you should already accept Shabbos. You shouldn't wait till the last second of 18 minutes. There's a biblical obligation to add at least 4 minutes before Shkia, because you're supposed to add Michael al Kodesh. In a similar way, after Shabbos, you also have to add at least 4 minutes. But that's only the obligation of working. The obligation of davening doesn't work in a similar way to the obligation of davening. For example, on Friday evening, let's say you didn't daven mincha before Shkia. The Alter Rebbe says you're allowed to daven mincha b'di'evid until Tzes Kachavim, until nightfall you could daven. So that means there's a time when you're biblically forbidden to work, minat you're not allowed to work, and yet you're still able to daven mincha. So we see the time of davening doesn't work in a similar way to the time of working. So although you're allowed to daven mincha after you're forbidden to work, you're still allowed to daven mincha. In a similar way, it would seem that we should be able to daven Ma'ariv earlier, although we are still forbidden to work, and especially consider the fact that when do you say Baruch HaMavdil? When do you officially end Shabbos in the middle of Ma'ariv? You officially end Shabbos in the middle of the bracha Atachan Antanu, when you say the bracha of Havdala in Ma'ariv, or the bracha, the words of Baruch HaMavdil in Atachan Antanu. So if you start a Ma'ariv 4 minutes before, and you got it up to that part of Atachan Antanu, so you will be able to say Atachan Antanu and Baruch HaMavdil after the time of the Tosfos Shabbos, after the time when you're supposed to add to Shabbos. So the real reason the Alter Rebbe says why we delay davening Ma'ariv is because not because it's of the obligation to add to the time that we're forbidden to work. Rather, it's a custom. We don't want to do anything at all connected to the days of the week until Shabbos until not just Shabbos is over, until Tosfos Shabbos is over, until the time when we're adding to Shabbos is also over. And therefore, we delay Ma'ariv later than any other day of the week because we don't want to go back to anything connected to mundane. I know that Rebbe Rashab once said about people who fold their talis during V'it Melacha. He said, he says he doesn't like the custom, people who fold their talis during V'it Melacha. Why not? The whole world folds their talis during V'it Melacha, because he said that the idea is that you shouldn't run back to the mundane. You're folding your talis during V'it Melacha, like you're ending Shabbos, like let things go a little bit. Don't rush back to the weekday, as Beryl was saying before. And there's actually two other things we do to delay going back to the mundane. One thing we do besides delaying the time for Ma'ariv later than all the days of the week is, besides that, we also daven Ma'ariv for a longer amount of time. We're supposed to have Ma'ariv on Motzei Shabbos, Ben Imus, Barichos. What?
Don't you say
way after? So even way after, you don't fold your towels during V'it Melacha.
Doing Beit
during Mincha.
You can do it before.
But when do we say that?
Before, it sounds like no.
That's what.
It sounds like you shouldn't fold your towels till after you've eaten Mincha. Not that's what it sounds like. I know that's Havdala, and yet.
Havdala is at home.
And Havdala's at home, and yet he didn't like people folding their towels during Beit Mincha, which is because of this concern. So hold on to Shabbos longer. Why let go? Okay, although it's not necessarily, we don't see by our Rebbein that they daven Ma'ariv for a longer amount of time on Saturday night. However, it's possible that the reason they didn't is because our time for Ma'ariv, anyways, the time in the calendar for davening Ma'ariv is way after the time of Teisas Shabbos, and therefore it's possible that's why there is no additional obligation to daven Ma'ariv longer. However, in the spirit of why you're supposed to daven Ma'ariv longer, because you're supposed to hold on to Shabbos, it seems that you shouldn't. The second Shabbos is over, people will jump up like they're taxi drivers and they have to right away get another drive. It doesn't seem that's the right thing to do. And also, there's a third thing that we do to add to Shabbos. The third thing is we have the prayer we say on Saturday night after Ma'ariv, the prayer of Hinoyam and the prayer of Bata Kodesh. That prayer is a blessing for days of the week, and that's why we don't say this prayer when there's some kind of holiday during the week. And this prayer actually was first said of Moshe Rabbeinu. When did Moshe Rabbeinu say this prayer of Hinoyam? He said the prayer of Hinoyam on the day the Mishkan was built. When was the Mishkan built? On Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the Mishkan was erected on a Sunday. So as we're beginning to go build our home for Hashem throughout the week, we begin by giving a blessing to whatever we do. The Shekhinah, the God's presence, should be manifest in what we're doing, and therefore we start off the days of the week with a blessing, the blessing that Moshe Rabbeinu blessed the Jewish people originally, V'hinayim Hashem Elokeinu. And in order to bring the Kedusha of Hashem even more, we say the chapter of Yesha B'Seiser, which has 130 words. Why is that 130 words significant? So the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is numerically equivalent to 26. But if you spell out Hashem's name, each letter you spell out in what's called Shem Havaya Meruba, Shem Havaya squared, which means you spell Hashem's name as Yud and Vav and Dalet, and Hey and Yud. If you spell it out that way, it equals up to 130, and that's why we repeat the last verse of Yesha B'Seiser in order to get up to 130, because you want to have 130 words to bring down the full light of Hashem's holiness for whatever we're going to do during the week. By the way, the Bahag says that if you go slow on Motzei Shabbos, go slow, he says you're going to be protected throughout the week. So it's worth it. Go slow Motzei Shabbos, and also the reason we have this prayer of V'Inayim and Bata Kodesh, which is longer than just bringing the amount of prayers needed, let's say, to bring the holiness of Hashem in our activities throughout the week would have been a lot less had there not been another concern. The reason why there's specifically long prayers, the Hinayim Bata Kodesh, which is also about the Shekhinah resting upon the Jewish people, you Holy One, you sit, you rest upon us. Why is it longer? It says in the Shulchan Aruch because there's an announcement made by the angel in charge of all the souls. Guys, go back, Chas Hashem, go to hell. So we don't want that to happen. We want it to happen as late as possible, and they don't make an announcement until the last group of Jews goes and finishes their arrangements they do on Saturday night. So we are very lucky. Rabbi Reber instituted 7-minute more davening. The Ma'ariv delayed, so we are. I think we qualified the last. Okay. So, but you should know it's a big thing. It brings a bracha for the whole week, as the Bahag says, and it delay, not just for us, but a delay. It says the mouth does not make the announcement until the last group of Jews finishes what they do on Motzei Shabbos. So we have a huge chus that we are the last group, as far as I know, unless there's some Rebbeinu Tam people in this town. Okay, now, so that's as far as Saturday night, as Ma'ariv. Now let's go to Havdala. The women in general, there's a question whether women say Havdala or not. According to the Rambam, the reason we say Havdala is a biblical obligation. Just like you're supposed to remember Shabbos when Shabbos comes in, you're also supposed to remember Shabbos when Shabbos goes out. And therefore there's a biblical obligation to your Havdala. And this biblical obligation applies to women as well, although it's a time-related thing. And usually all time-related things women aren't obligated to keep. However, regarding the laws of Shabbos, they are. Why are they? Because the Torah gives us 2 commandments about keeping Shabbos. One is remember Shabbos in the positive, and one is Shamar, refrain from violating the Shabbos. So since the Torah says Zachar and Shamar, So we learned whoever is obligated to refrain from working on Shabbos, which is women as well, they're also obligated in all the time-related concerns of Shabbos, remembering Shabbos. And therefore, women are also obligated according to the Rambam and Havdalah. That's, if you say Havdalah is a biblical commandment to praise Hashem for Shabbos. There's another interpretation of what Havdalah is about. Havdalah is not about remembering Shabbos, it's not about praising Hashem for Shabbos. You don't touch about praising Hashem when Shabbos comes in and praising Hashem when Shabbos goes out. Rather, the purpose of Havdalah instead is about allowing us to work. It's about making a separation, making a divider between Shabbos and days of the week. According to that interpretation of what Havdalah is, it's only a rabbinical obligation. So some say, well, it's still Shabbos related and women are obligated in whatever has to do with Shabbos. And therefore, they maintain that women are obligated to hear Havdalah as well. Other opinion is that this rabbinical obligation is only for men and women aren't obligated to hear Havdalah. But can they make Havdalah or can they not make Havdalah? According to the Alter Rebbe, since there's an argument whether or not women are obligated or not, what do we usually say? If there's a doubt you should say a bracha or not, what do we say to Beryl? If there's a doubt you should say a bracha or not, you don't say it. So therefore the Ramah says a woman is not allowed to make Havdalah. She can't make Havdalah because there's an argument whether she's obligated to say Havdalah. And therefore a man can't say Havdalah in order for a woman to hear Havdalah, because if he heard Havdalah himself already, he could make Kiddush for her, she's obligated to hear Kiddush. But he can't make Havdalah for her because there's a question whether or not she's obligated to hear Havdalah. So by the same token, says the Ramah, she can't make Havdalah herself either. Since there's a question if she's obligated to say Havdalah, so she can't say that bracha of Havdalah. Because there's a question. If your children are at home, your children need to hear Havdalah, you could say Havdalah, because they have a rabbinical obligation to hear Havdalah. But your wife, since she doesn't have, or a woman, any other woman, she's not obligated, or there's a question if she's obligated, you can't say a bracha on a doubt. So how? But the Alter Rebbe disagrees. Alter Rebbe says that a woman could say Havdalah, and they're obligated to say Havdalah. He maintains that the main opinion is that there is a rabbinical obligation for a woman to say Havdalah as well, and therefore they are obligated to say Havdalah. But should they say Havdalah themselves, or should they be Yotzei Havdalah? And why could they say the bracha if there's a question if they're obligated or not? And the answer is, we find by other mitzvahs as well that women aren't obligated to do, like the mitzvah of shofar, the mitzvah of lulav, the mitzvah of sukkah. They're all time-related mitzvahs that women are not obligated to keep, and yet they make the bracha. Why could they say the bracha? So there's two reasons out there. Ever said a woman can say the bracha. God has sanctified us with His commandments and commanded us to the mitzvah of lulav. If there's no obligation for them to keep the mitzvah of lulav, it's a rabbinical, it's a time-related mitzvah. How could they say the bracha? Asher kedeshanu mitzvah. So there's two reasons. One reason the Alter Rebbe says is because they're saying Hashem commanded us in the plural, the royal we, not just the men, not just the women, but also the men. They're saying Hashem commanded the Jewish people. Another reason the Alter Rebbe says is because women also get rewarded for keeping time-related mitzvahs. And since they get rewarded for keeping time-related mitzvahs, since they have a reward, therefore they are able to say that Hashem has sanctified us with His commandments and commanded us. But the problem is like this. The Ramah himself, who says that women cannot say Havdalah, agrees that they could say the bracha on the Lulav and Esrog. They could say a bracha on Sukkah. So why is Havdalah different? So one explanation that's given is like this. The Magen Avram explains that it could be, according to the Ramah, they're only allowed to say a bracha on a mitzvah that's time related that has some action involved. But if the mitzvah has no action involved, but it's a mitzvah just in speech, they cannot say a bracha on. So since Havdalah is only a speech mitzvah, so therefore it would follow that women cannot say a bracha on Havdalah. I'm wondering, according to Alter Rebbe, based on this, if they could say a bracha on Sfiras HaEmer, because Sfiras HaEmer is a speech-related mitzvah, and according to this logic, if they could say Havdalah, maybe they could also say a bracha on Sfiras HaEmer. It seems, and the custom is that it seems like according to this, they could say a bracha on Sfiras HaEmer. That's what it would seem. I know that women do make a bracha on Sfiras HaEmer. Okay. So a woman could say the bracha of Havdalah, according to Alter Rebbe. We've explained why. The question though is it good for her to say Havdalah herself, or should she try to be Yotzei Havdalah? So according to, and should she say Havdalah on wine? So the custom is on Kiddush, we usually give the Kiddush wine out. It's considered preferable to drink from the wine of Kiddush. Havdalah is no custom to drink from the wine of Havdalah. Why is there no custom to drink from the wine of Havdalah? So one explanation is because since Havdalah is about bringing out the Shabbos, or scoring the Shabbos, and it reminds us of the sin of the tree of knowledge which caused the light of the world to be dimmed, And therefore, since Chava had some share in this, and Chava gave Adam, she gave him a cup of wine, because some opinions are that the tree of knowledge was a grape, and she served Adam in a cup, and therefore she should not make Havdalah on wine, or and because a woman doesn't drink from the Havdalah, therefore no one drinks from Havdalah. Therefore, the custom is that no one drinks from the wine of Havdalah. But she could make Havdalah on coffee, as Rebbe Hashem made Havdalah on coffee, and the Alter Rebbe, it says that his last Havdalah was also on coffee, but it shouldn't be coffee which is too hot, because then there's a question about drinking the coffee in sufficient amount of time that you need to fulfill the mitzvah of drinking the wine or the coffee for Havdalah. The bracha Beir Meira Eish, according to Ramah, she can't make the bracha herself, but according to Alter Rebbe, Beir Meira Eish and Havdalah are in the same category. And as we learned last week, since it's better for those who are listening to Havdalah to make the bracha themselves on Beir Meira Eish and Psamim, so women, for sure, according to everyone, can say the bracha on Psamim, because what's Psamim about? Reviving yourself after losing the extra soul you got on Shabbos. Who gets an extra soul on Shabbos? There are many interpretations of what the extra soul is. One interpretation of extra soul is additional excitement to serve Hashem beyond logic and reason. Another interpretation of extra soul is the peace you feel on Shabbos. You're able to totally detach and not think about your work. You're able to. On Shabbos, that says that Ashba, that's a gift that God gives us on Shabbos. It's supernatural. We're able to totally detach. So women experience that as well, and therefore, for sure, they're obligated to make the bracha on the psamim. And according to Alter Rebbe, not according to Ramah, no, but according to Alter Rebbe, since they're able to get bracha on Havdalah, they're obligated to hear Havdalah. Therefore, they're also obligated, and they should say their own bracha on Beirei Ma'irei Ha'esh. Okay. Any questions? All right.